Well, you may be wondering why an 83-year-old codger is running a salmon fishing estate. And it all began way back in 1916 when, thanks to the Kaiser, my father had to go to war. He came out and was invalided out. He went into the shipyards, and the men were so idle and so lazy. My father rebelled, and he went to the employment office and said, if you don't let me out of this shipyard work, I'm going to report it. So they let him out. My grandfather ran a stone quarry, and he then started up a little foundry making concrete block machinery. From there, they needed concrete, so my family started a concrete machinery business. From there, with stone and the concrete machinery business, the family thought about sand and gravel. The extraction method was dragline at the beginning, and then unfortunately the draglines went out of, not favour, but they went out of production, and excavators like JCBs with a long extended boom took over. Now that's the background. Now I have to thank obviously the Kaiser for starting all this. Now North Sea Oil comes into it because the company that I helped to run in 1976 was exporting machinery all over the world. But when North Sea Oil was discovered, we couldn't export anymore because the pound rose. So very quickly, the company that I ran and the family had run so successfully couldn't compete anymore. And all our competitors, about 6 of them, went out of business. This left me redundant at the grand old age of 48, and I then lived on my wits. But it had one advantage. I loved salmon fishing. I'd fished since I was a boy, and with the building of Kielder Dam in 1980, this provided the resources to clean the river up and to provide a fishing stock which the Tyne lacked. And the Tyne River suddenly became, over the next 30 years, the premier fishing, salmon fishing river in England. And so I had the luck to be able to go to Farnley while the family ran the gravel business, and I fished there, and very, very successfully. Then there was a family feud, and like all families, there are disagreements, and it was decided that we would sell the gravel companies, and Farnley, being one of the sites, was sold with it. The land was sold, but the fishing was retained, and I had a dubious right of way, which was never confirmed, to get a few family friends to go fishing on the stretch that we had. In 1991, we decided that 2 other friends of ours and myself, we would try to buy the land back, which would give us proper tenure of access and give us an estate to manage. So this went ahead, and we were lucky enough to buy the estate, and then we had salmon fishing. The lakes, there was 1 lake to start with, and then it developed into 2 lakes. The estate is forested. There are more trees than land. It is very private, although there was a right of way developed against our wishes, and so that has to be dealt with. We also have a major headache in that the 1834 railway from Carlisle to Newcastle, which was the 4th railway in the world to be built, and that went through the estate. So we have this obstacle in the middle of the estate, and the pleasure of owning land and trees and fishing is great, but there is a negative side, and the negative side is you have to deal with other people. And each day the rods ring up in the evening and say we've done this and we've done that. This just happens to be, by coincidence, our record week. We have had 35 salmon from Sunday to Saturday, and this is a record. It also included one rod from Yorkshire who had 5 salmon and a sea trout, a 23 pounds, a 15 pounds, a 10 pounds, a 5 pounds, an 8 pounds and a 4 pound sea trout. A colleague of his got 3 salmon, a 15 pounds, a 14 pounds and a 12 pounds, making 9 salmon for the day, and that is a beat record. So he hopefully will get a bottle of whiskey, which is a bit of fun that we have. The biggest fish of the year gets a bottle of whiskey, and the 100th fish of the year also gets a bottle of whiskey, and that was won on Thursday. So as you can see, my life isn't all joy, but Farnley gives it a great boost, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
That went back.
So how long have you been fishing in Farnley?
Farnley, this will be my 3rd year.
And what's it like here compared to other places?
Compared to other places, I've been lucky enough to fish all over the world. I've fished in Norway, Russia, Ireland, fished on some of the best rivers in Scotland, and this compares equally to any of those. When it's good, it's very, very good. And today should be perfect. The height's right, the colour's right, the conditions are right. It's just a question of plugging away, really. But
this is the time of year, isn't it?
It's a good time of year for it, yeah. But it compares to some of the best rivers I've fished on in the world.
Yeah.
Superb.